featuring Professor Ken and Reek in the Lion's Den.
Once again, we're back with a special bulletin for the Lion's Den. Is the demand for equal testing for all communities. The African American community, Black community, Latino community, everybody that has melanin, their communities are not being tested as other communities in the U.S. are tested. So, with that being said, Professor Ken, what do you say to this particular situation that we're facing?
Well, no disrespect to any race or nothing, but it's been known for years, if you're white, you're all right. If you're yellow, you mellow. If you're black, get back. So, as we notice with this COVID-19 SARS-2 disease, is that, black folks are overwhelmingly being infected. And the infection is coming primarily because of lack of education. It's so horrific at this point that Kamala Harris, Cory Booker, and Elizabeth Warren have developed a committee to deal with the Department of Human Services, dealing with, the alarming rate of African American men in particular that's, contracting this disease. One case in hand is Illinois. Illinois has 60% European or white race, but has 14% of the black race, but yet out of the 10,360 cases in Chicago, 40% of them have been African Americans. That within itself per capita represent a major disparity in terms of testing in our communities. Milwaukee, similar, a small percentage, maybe 10% African Americans. Started with one African American man and went to 40. Now they say it's at 300, almost 400 cases. Overwhelming, amount of cases popping up. The same thing in Michigan. 14% population. They have 40% of the COVID cases and deaths. That's sprouting up in Michigan. It's always been said. I always tell people, when it comes to race in this country, if black folks were, say, if we were playing for if we was playing against the Patriots, and we were the visiting team,
right?
The Patriots would start on the 80-yard line. African Americans would start in the end zone. We got to run 100 yards. The Patriots only had to run 20 yards. It's an 80% disparity in our country in terms of, loans. If, you're a European, you're a white man, you got an 80% chance of getting the loan than the African-American man. If you're a European or a white American, as far as getting a job, it's an 80% chance that you may get a job. If you got corona, it's an 80% chance that you might get a ventilator, where it's a 80%, it's a greater chance of getting a ventilator than it would be for African American, because you got an 80% advantage, and it's not the bad thing. It's just that, this is essentially a white man's world. This is a white man's country. We are non-immigrants. We are the only immigrants that didn't actually come here. Talk about the descendants of the slaves. And because of that, we get the root of disparity, the root of racism, the root of Jim Crowism, the root of white supremacy, because we don't have, no consulate, we don't have no government to represent us. The very government that represents us call us 3/5 of America, 3/5 of Americans in the Constitution. The Constitution is not the black man's friend, because even when you think about human rights, the first thing that they gave us in 1866 was civil rights. Civil rights deal with the civility of a people, which doesn't deal with human rights, which is when you got human rights, you can bring this country up against, you can bring human crimes, human violations against this country in the United Nations. So that is one of the things that we have to understand, is that, we always have dealt with disparity of wealth, disparity of jobs, disparity of now Corona, and COVID-19. So as African Americans, what we have to do, we got to go knock on each other's doors, and we got to let each other know that, look, man, this thing is serious. Practice social distancing. Practice washing your hands. Practice proper hygiene, because unfortunately, a lot of African American men do not watch TV. We do not watch TV. We do not watch the news. We don't know what the hell is going on. I heard that, brothers is doing smoke parties. They, getting blunts. They buying an ounce of weed and they going and they smoking blunts. And the person you smoking with may have corona. You know what I'm saying? But he might be infected. They having what I heard out there is quarantine parties. I seen that 100 people gathering. You know what I'm saying? Them 100 people, according to the CDC, each person can affect 2.5 persons. You know what I'm saying? Which means that, just in that gathering alone, you're talking about a possibility of 600 people getting infected who could possibly affect 600 people. The analogy I like to give most African American men, because our community was so plagued with AIDS, is that think about it like AIDS. When AIDS first came out, the conception was that if you had sex with somebody who had AIDS, that means that, that person who got AIDS had sex with you had sex with all the people that person had sex with, all the people that person had sex with. And that person that had AIDS, not only have they affected you, but they affect everybody that you're going to have sex with and everybody they're going to have sex with. And it's a domino effect. Well, with this COVID-19, it's a different perception. So what I mean by that is, say, for example, if you walk up to somebody, you touch them, you can't put a condom on your hand. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to affect 2.5 people. They're going to affect 2.5. So everybody everybody you touched in the last hour, they touched. Everybody that touched them, they touched. So it's going to spread like wildfire, because it goes from person to person. And, in the course of a day, you could shake about 100 hands, or you could cough on about, 200 or 300 people. So this is why it's so important. I understand what the senatress is doing as far as, getting with the CDC and making sure that they give adequate testing to African Americans. But more than adequate testing, we need to practice social distance. We need to practice proper hygiene. And we also need to practice, going out there and getting information to each other. We did it during the Civil Rights Movement. We did it during Marcus Garvey. We did it, with the Nation of Islam, with the Moorish Science Temple. We built multiple massive organizations in this country through word of mouth. So what we got to do, we got to take that same ability that we had in the 40s, 50s, and the 60s and bring it to the 21st century and start marketing and promoting ourselves, as potential candidates for this horrific disease. And, yes, what I'm saying, we are suffering because of lack of knowledge, because we don't understand mass media. We don't watch TV. We don't, pay attention. We take everything for granted. We don't think fat meat is greasy. And because of that, if you're black, you got to get back.
I look at it like this, Ken. I'm hearing everything you're saying. I got a totally different take on what you just said. My take is, I think all this, what they're talking about, is a bunch of BS. And when I say that, because I had a family member that done died from AIDS, and I've seen them go through what they went through, and I've seen the type of trials they had to take and the type of medicine they had to take. The bottle of that AZT at the time, back in the late 80s, early 90s, was like $900 a bottle. So essentially, they were making a profit for having, these certain people taking part of that, those AIDS trials at the early on stage. You don't even hear nothing about AIDS, but it's still around. They ain't came up with no cure vaccine for no AIDS. So why is everybody jumping on the bandwagon with this? To me, it's like, yeah, people got pre-existing conditions, like, people got diabetes, heart disease and things like that. There's been no cures for those. But now that this one is, the top of the news feed, we're supposed to be concerned about it. And I look at it, what's to come of it? Are we supposed to, okay, we get the testing. Now, we get the test now. Are you supposed to get a vaccine? What if you don't get it? Do that mean you're shunned from the public? I mean, these are the questions I like to ask. And who's conducting these tests? I mean, why are they're talking about, there'll be drive-thrus at CVS's and Walgreens and different places, but why is it rush to just do this versus give me some more information behind this? Don't have me rushing into doing something and it can actually hurt me. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you ain't solved any of these previous things that are still dangerous to this day, why should I be concerned about this? That's how I think a lot of brothers will take this,
Yeah, I get it. I mean, a lot of us are conspiracy theorists, and we believe that, this disease is created by the 5G. Some people believe that it was manufactured in a factory or whatever. I get that. But I'm not talking about how it was created, who created it, and the motive behind it. I guess essentially what I was talking about, my brother, was I was talking about an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. And if it is a disease out there, if you told me, Ken, man, that broad gave me AIDS, then naturally, I'm saying, I'm not going to mess with her. And if you told me, Ken, I got AIDS because I didn't wear a condom, naturally, I'm going to put on a condom. So my position is basically prevention as opposed to it is actual. You may not want to take a test, but even if you don't want to take the test, if you are a conspiracy theorist and you think that, this is some 5G method or this is the test is actually causing the death, and the test is some type of, the vaccine is some type of mechanism to give us the sign of the number of the beast, all of the stuff I've been hearing, then no, do not go take the test. You know what I'm saying? Do not go to take the test. But if you find yourself ill and you find yourself sick to the point where, you can't breathe or whatever, then, I would advise you to go see or call your local physician. That's what I would do. I wouldn't say go in there and take a test, but at least, protect yourself. And I'm saying, brothers and sisters, we don't know what's going on out here. All I know is that the African American community is suffering tremendously from this disease. So the only thing I can say to my brothers and sisters out there in the African American community, if you don't do nothing, at least practice social distancing, physical distancing. You can still use social media to communicate like we're doing now, but like I used to say back in the game, give me 50 feet like hot coffee. You know what I'm saying? I mean, back up on them like the old days and spin up off them like the barcades. You know what I'm saying? And keep your distance. They can't give you no assistance. And that's just what I'm saying. I agree with you. I mean, I don't know what's going on. I told y'all numerous of times and numerous interviews that I can't put my thumb on it. I don't know where it come from, where it is. All I know is that we suffer from it, and that the only cure that we could do is an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. So in this case, in particular for African Americans, prevention would be our most adequate, steps to, dodging this thing. But like you said, Reek, you can go in there and they can give you something more than what you got. They can, they can give you the test, and the test can be what's. Because we notice, one thing we do notice is that most people who go in, they don't come out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they say once you get that ventilator, it's an 80% chance that you're going to die. And I was looking at one doctor was saying to the extent that, he said, man, I ain't never seen this disease before. He said most people, when you coughing, those are muscles, that help you, cough up phlegm and help you cough up foreign substance in your body. He said, so by the time people get to the ER, what happens is they need ventilators. But what the ventilator does, it take over for your muscles and it take over for your breathing and give you oxygen. But people become dependent on that ventilator, and then after so many days, they have to kill them because those muscles, because see, when you cough, your brain tell you to cough. So that brain is not telling you to cough no more, so those muscles become inoperable, and, it may, not be reading the signal from your brain. And, your lungs no longer respond to that, and that's how people is dying along with, with inflammation and, pneumonia. So, I mean, it could be, a conspiracy, it could be 5G, it could be a mad scientist, but whoever it is, just keep your distance, man. You know, don't get caught up in whatever's going on. You know, we as African Americans, we need to fade away like a Michael Jordan jumper. You know what I'm talking about? 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 You know what I'm talking about?
This is my book, The Art of Human Chess. It's a bestseller, New York best time seller. And this book here sold millions, sold all over the world, all throughout the prison system. This is the book, The 48 Laws of Game PHARAOHS. Make sure you get these books. If you don't want to buy the hardcover, if you don't want to buy the paperback, then the best thing to do is go to iTunes on your cell phone and type in my name, Pimpin' Ken, and I guarantee you the book will pop up. If that don't work, go to audible.com, type in my name. If that don't work, go to amazon.com, type in my name. Anywhere books is sold all over the country, you can get my books. These are my best-selling books. You hear people talk about them all the time on Instagram, on Snapchat. These are definitely some good reads. Please get my book. I guarantee you that you will never be the same. Your life will be impacted, and also your life will be enhanced just by getting these two books, The Art of Human Chess and The 48 Laws of Game. Just like the 48 Laws of Power, just like The Art of War.
Too cool to count 24/7.